Believe me, all the X characters that will be mentioned in this video have more than a 90% chance of dying by the end of the story. Oda has dropped many hints over time that some of these characters are marked to die. That's right, if you're one of those who think Oda is afraid to kill off characters, you're going to be proven wrong by the end of the story. Come closer and I'll show you who they are and why they're going to die. Shanks. Starting off by dropping a bombshell, I firmly believe that Shanks will die by the end. Here's the analogy. For me, Shanks has two possible futures. Either he becomes a villain or dies as an ally. We can be sure that one of these two possibilities will come true. First, let's imagine that Shanks is the good guy and stays by the Straw Hat's side until the end. In the final war, the Pirate Alliance would have the two strongest men in the world, Shanks and Luffy. Man, these two would obliterate the millions of government soldiers just with their haki. It would literally be the union of the best devil fruit user and the best haki user in the entire series. Wouldn't that be a bit unfair? They could bring in the admirals, vice admirals, and even the Gorosei. The government wouldn't stand a chance with two commanders like these leading the war. That's why I don't think Shanks will be fighting alongside Luffy in the final war. They're both too strong to fight together, and besides, they won't be alone. We'll also have the Revolutionary Army with all those beasts, the nations of Alabasta, Dressrosa, Wano, and many others. So that's why I believe there are only two futures for Shanks. Either he will be the villain of the story to avoid forming this broken duo with Luffy, or he will die before even forming an alliance with the Straw Hat. And as we've seen, the chances of Shanks being a villain have been decreasing, especially after his appearances in the manga, and also because of the Red movie, which almost made it clear that he's not a villain. So since it's unlikely that Shanks will be a villain, I believe he will die before even fighting alongside Luffy in the greatest war of all. After all, that would be way too overpowered. Usopp. He might as well order his coffin now, because it's unlikely he will make it past Elbaf. That's right, Usopp's chances of dying in Elbaf are growing higher and higher, and Sogeking's fans are freaking out because of it. Basically, we've seen that many of Usopp's lies are coming true. For example, he once said he saw a coconut island, and in Little Garden, that lie became a reality when he saw island-sized poop. He also claimed he fought a three-headed Cerberus, and in Thriller Bark, he encounters those Cerberuses. But there is another thing Usopp said that makes us believe that one more of his lies is going to come true. After meeting the giants Dory and Brogy, Usopp said he wanted to die like a brave warrior, just like the Elbafians. And man, Usopp's dream is to be a brave warrior. So what better way to be a great warrior than dying in battle? The Elbafians, for example, are heavily inspired by Vikings. The Vikings, being Norse, believe in Valhalla, which is the paradise for those who die honorably in battle. So for Usopp to receive the honors of a brave warrior, he will most likely die as one, witnessing the end of the Straw Hat's journey in the final Valhalla. Law. When we were introduced more deeply to the powers of the Ope Ope no Mi, we learned that the surgery fruit had a unique power. It could grant immortality to anyone the user chooses. Doflamingo wanted Law to use this power on him so he could live forever. But behind this great ability, there's a cost. Whenever a user uses this technique, they die immediately. And man, we know that Imsama most likely received the surgery to become immortal. Now I ask you, do you think Oda is going to talk so much about this power and then not use it? That's narrative law. If you've mentioned the power, it's because the user is going to use it at some point. It would be incredibly emotional for Law to have an ending like that, where he revives someone like Luffy or one of his companions. So, given that Oda has mentioned this ability so much, I think Law has one foot in the grave. Rayleigh. So far, Luffy has experienced two deaths that impacted his life. Sabo's and Ace's. Sabo's death doesn't count as much, because years later, Luffy discovered he was still alive. But usually, anime protagonists have to go through a phase in their life that is almost a law among them. Naruto, for example, lost Jiraiya. Gon lost Kite. Midoriya will lose All Might at some point. Similarly, Luffy will definitely go through something similar. Rayleigh was someone we can consider Luffy's mentor. He's the one who taught him all about Haki, helped him improve his devil fruit transformations. He's almost like a father figure to Luffy. So, let's face it, it would be a very emotional moment to see Rayleigh sacrificing himself for his pupil, Luffy. Without a shadow of a doubt, the protagonist of the story should end his journey under a coffin. First, because it's unlikely we'll get a continuation of One Piece. It's been 25 years of manga. and Oda certainly doesn't want to create a two-piece. So what better way to end this great story than with something as natural in the world as the death of a person? The reason for Luffy's death wouldn't just be to fulfill his natural life cycle, but also because Oda has hinted at this several times. To use his transformations, Luffy literally pushes his body to the limit, pumping blood to the second gear, inflating his bones in an irregular way, excessively using haki with fourth gear, and especially pounding his heart with drums to reach fifth gear. All of this drastically shortens his life expectancy. But the worst part is that back in the Impel Down and Marineford arcs, Luffy was injected twice with Ivankov's hormones, and Ivankov himself said this would significantly decrease Luffy's life expectancy. Since this health issue is mentioned constantly, we can conclude that Oda will use this as the reason for Luffy's death at the end of the story. Would you consider this a dignified way for Luffy to die? Comment below. Kuma. My real fear is that by the time I post this video, Kuma might already be dead. Those who follow the manga know that this man's situation isn't the best. Not only is he unconscious and severely injured, but Kuma has been wandering around aimlessly. First, he left Kamabaka and went to Marijua. There, he was lethally hit by a Kainu. His body exploded by magma. Kuma was still able to escape to a place that, as of the current moment of this video, hasn't been revealed. It's highly likely he's heading to Egghead. If there's still any trace of his consciousness, Kuma is surely going there to see his daughter one last time, and also to save her, just like the Straw Hats. But the fact is that Kuma is unlikely to survive all of this. Vegapunk himself said that his consciousness would already be gone after all the body modifications. So perhaps he still has one last moment in his life to see his daughter Bonnie. Rikudoldo 3. For those who don't remember, he's Rebecca's father and the current king of the Dressrosa kingdom. He has royal blood from the Riku family, which gives him a high status within the world government. The problem is that despite his nation being affiliated with the world government, we know that Riku is deeply grateful to Luffy. If he had to choose a side, he would definitely choose the pirates like Luffy, rather than the government that turned a blind eye to the tyranny imposed by Doflamingo in his kingdom. In other words, Riku would side with the Straw Hats in a potential final war. And in my opinion, if he stood by Luffy, he would be one of the characters who would die in the middle of the war at the hands of the world government. The first reason is that the government would go after him for betraying the gods of this world. With all the anger they'd have toward King Riku, they would focus on him and try to end his life as quickly as possible. The second reason is the same as why King Cobra, Vivi's father, was killed. He wasn't just killed to make a statement about the D's, he also died because of Vivi. Oda surely wants to make Vivi the Queen of Alabasta, especially since she has already shown that the kingdom is her priority. Just like Vivi is the great woman leading her kingdom, we could have Rebecca as the leading figure of the Dressrosa kingdom after her grandfather's death. I can totally see Vivi and Rebecca leading their nations to help Luffy in a future war. And that's it, guys. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. See you next time.